See the racket right here? There is a problem with your serve and you need to check out this video. My name is Jeff Salzenstein. I'm the founder of Tennis Evolution, and whatever you do on your serve, you don't want to do this. And I'm going to explain it in this video right now. Before we get started though, make sure you give us a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel and turn on our notifications and watch this entire video because I want you to take your serve to the next level. So what's this problem with the serve? It's called the early racket drop. And what is it? Well, the early racket drop essentially means that you're dropping the racket behind your back like this before you get the legs to work properly. So let me show you this real quick. This is what's robbing you of power, rhythm, timing, and tempo. When you move the racket up like this and you bend your knees, if you drop the racket before the legs initiate, that means you have an early racket drop. And again, it's killing your power, it's killing your rhythm, your tempo, and your timing. And there's a lot of things that cause this early racket drop. And what's so fascinating to me is that when I work with players and I do a video analysis or a coaching call and I identify this early racket drop, they have no idea that they were making this mistake, and they didn't know how important it is, because really you want to get your kinetic change, you want to get your body to work properly, you want to get the lower body to initiate before the racket drops. So first, before we get into solutions, let's talk about the problem. One of the biggest problems players are having with this early racket drop is that they use the wrong grip. That's right, most players are using what's called a forehand grip like this. We call it the frying pan grip, where the racket comes up like this and it's open. It gets open right here. And now the racket has to drop before the body moves, before the lower body moves. So what happens is players get in this forehand grip, they bring the racket up independent of their legs, okay? Independent of their legs. They're just moving their arms get to this position, and as they're waiting for the ball, the racket has to go somewhere. And where does it go? It goes behind the back before the legs fire up. So you'll see a lot of players get to this position right here. You see how the racket is dropped? And one of the biggest problems is that coaches are teaching what's called the back scratch position at the beginning to teach people how to serve. So they've already dropped the racket before they've bent their knees, or before they've straightened their knees to go up to the ball. Big problem is the grip. So you have to focus on getting that continental grip, learning a continental grip, and learning how to keep the racket up like this before you drive with the legs. Now, if you have a forehand grip on your serve and you're trying to change to a continental grip, go ahead and leave a comment below. Let me know if you've got a forehand grip or not, and if you are committed to making that change to the continental grip, because this is what can help you transform your serve. Now let's get into the next problem. The next problem is with the first move. So when you start your motion, if you start too fast and you get that racket up too high, too early, which again, with people that are doing the down together, up together, if they focus on going down and up and they go too fast and they get the racket here too early, again, where does the racket have to go as you're waiting for the ball? It has to go somewhere. Either the elbow has to drop or the racket drops. And we see a lot of players focusing on this early racket drop. So how do you fix it? Simple. You have to delay the dominant hand. So when you focus on tossing the ball, you've got to try to keep this racket lower than the tossing hand. You can't have the racket lead. You can't have the racket get up higher than the tossing arm, which we see a lot with players. You have to focus on getting the hand to be more delayed. And one way you can do that is you can just start with the racket right here and you can toss the ball and hit it. Basically, you're going to start with the racket here instead of the full motion, and you can toss the ball and then bring the racket up. Okay, let me show you real quick how this might work. So, like I said before, instead of bringing the arms up like this early, you're going to delay the dominant arm like this. So you're going to get in this position right here, not the full motion. A lot of you want to get in that full motion. Start right here, or even start with the arms slightly bent. And then when you toss the ball, notice how this racket stays down. So I'm just tossing and I'm waiting here with my arm to delay it. I'm delaying the hand. And that is going to help you with your tempo and timing and help you prevent that early racket drop. Next, we have to get into something that I call ulnar deviation when it comes to getting to that trophy position. So what I want you to be aware of is that a lot of players, including you maybe, are serving with a lot of tension. So when you bring the racket up, you're cocking the wrist like this, and that puts the racket in this position and makes you want to drop the racket early. So you'll notice that the racket tip is facing that direction towards the net. So you're bringing the racket up and you're getting to here. And you can just feel the weight of the racket, it wants to drop. The ulnar deviation is going to fix this, and I really haven't heard a lot of coaches talk about it. I've got another video that talks about what I call the phone booth method, and that's related to what I'm about to share with you right now. When you bring the racket up, you want to try to get the racket tip vertical, or the racket vertical and the racket tip pointing up to the sky. The ulnar deviation comes into play when you make the wrist relax a little bit like this. So if you want to get this right, instead of having the racket like this, you want to have it more like this when you bring it up. So it's not about flexing the wrist as much as it is about feeling a little ulnar deviation like this. Avoid the cocked wrist, focus on the ulnar deviation. So when you bring the racket up, notice where my wrist is now. It's relaxed in this position. It's not cocked. If you can get this right, this will make a huge impact. And one way you can practice it, and I'm going to show you with a ball right now, is you can just practice tossing the ball and seeing if you can get the racket in a more vertical position here instead of this position. It's going to be hard, especially if you grip that racket tight. You've got to make sure that that hand is relaxed and you're practicing the ulnar deviation, almost like you're hammering something into a wall, a nail into a wall, just like this. That's the feeling. You want to get that racket vertical instead of horizontal like that. And that comes with relaxing the hand and relaxing the wrist. All right, let's get to the final problem that I want to discuss today. Now, there is a tip out there on the internet that talks about knocking a birthday hat off of the head. And now I understand the concept. In fact, I understand that the focus here is to keep the racket face closed and to prevent that waiter tray right here, to prevent that racket from open up. So I get it. I understand why this coach is talking about knocking a birthday hat off of the head. But guess what? When you do that, that may cause you to not only drop the racket early, but also break the plane over here. And you can lose a lot of power and control doing that. If you need to do that to work on keeping the racket face closed, that might be something that you consider. But I'm going to suggest an alternative, that when you bring the racket up, you can still keep the racket face closed, but again, if you can ulnar deviate and keep the racket vertical longer, you can avoid knocking the birthday hat off too early. So you don't, in my opinion, you want to have the racket drop back this way behind the body instead of behind the head, instead of knocking that birthday hat off of the racket. Okay, so let's give you some more solutions to really help you lock this in and avoid that early racket drop. One drill that I like, that I work with all of my players on to really get their motion locked in, is to focus on what I call the half serve drill. So what you want to focus on doing is starting with the racket in this position right here. So a lot of players, again, when they start in a half serve, they start with the racket drop. That's your early racket drop. So you start in a half motion where the racket is on this side of the body. It's not behind the body here. It's on this side of the body. So when you toss the ball, you work on your trophy position, and notice, again, notice how I'm keeping the racket more vertical. When I go to turn, I'm not dropping the racket early. So this half serve can help you isolate this movement. It can help you feel if the racket tip stays up long enough. That's the biggest problem that I see, is players want to get to here to try to find power, to go hit the ball. You want to wait as long as possible with that racket tip up before you fire your legs up to the ball. When you fire your legs up to the ball, that's when the racket drops. So when you fire your legs up, I'll say this again, the chest opens up and the racket drops, not the other way around. I see too many players, again, getting to here, dropping the racket before they do anything with their lower body. And that's a lower body problem. When you see someone drop their racket, or if you're dropping your racket, that's a lower body issue. We want to get the lower body coordinated with the upper body. So work on this half serve drill where you toss the ball and you keep the racket vertical as long as possible. Now, as you do this, you want to stay in the phone booth. Now, the phone booth means that if I were to step into a phone booth, it's a pretty tight area right here. So when you toss the ball in the air, you want to feel like your racket and your tossing arm are together like this. They're not like this, they're like this. It's not like this out here. I see a lot of players back here. You want to be in this position right here in the phone booth, a very tight, confined space with your tossing arm in the racket, with the racket tip vertical, and you have that ulnar deviation right here. You've got that wrist relaxed. That's a big key to the serve. Now, I know I shared a lot today. I'd love for you to leave a comment below and let me know what was your favorite tip of this video. I had a blast making this video. I really think it can help you get to the next level if you focus on some of the concepts that I talked about today. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. Make sure you give us a big thumbs up. Smash that like button because it helps YouTube know that you like this video and will share it with other tennis players. I had a blast making this video. We'll see you at the next one. And before you go today, make sure you click the link in the description below or somewhere in this video, because when you do, you can take that next step on your serve and tennis journey with me. We've got 3 mistakes that you're probably making on your serve that I want to reveal, and I want to give you the solutions as well. And all you have to do is click that link below or somewhere in this video. Thanks for your time today, and I'll see you at the next video.